Hey everyone! The Thunder vs Nuggets series has gone all the way to Game 7, and it's still anyone's game. With two dominant stars like SGA and Jokić leading their teams, even the MVP race feels like it's part of the drama. Today, I'll break this series down from 5 key perspectives. A lot of people are making predictions, but I'll use data from the first 6 games to analyze the trends, and I'd love to hear your predictions in the comments too. Before we dive into the numbers, here's a quick note on how the analysis was done. All of the data used in this video comes from the first 6 games of the Thunder vs Nuggets series in the 2025 NBA playoffs. I pulled detailed stats using a combination of official NBA data and custom breakdowns, including team averages, player matchups, and clutch time splits. This is not just about total points or highlights. We're looking at advanced metrics like TS%, USG%, assist-to-turnover ratio, pace, and efficiency to understand how each team won and why they lost. That way, we can make a smarter prediction for Game 7. Let's start by looking at how each team scores. I broke down the stats to see where the points are coming from, like whether it's more about three-point shooting or paint scoring. The method of scoring can tell us a lot about a team's style and strengths. For the Nuggets, 38.4% of their points came from beyond the arc. That's a really high ratio. It's clear that their offense heavily relies on outside shooting and spacing. On the flip side, their paint scoring is relatively modest, which suggests a more perimeter-oriented game plan. The Thunder showed a very different scoring profile. Nearly 20% of their points came from fast breaks, indicating their strength in transition play. They also scored efficiently off turnovers, turning defense into offense. Overall, their scoring was more balanced and focused on paint and two-point shots, rather than perimeter shooting. We've seen how each team scores, and what their offensive tendencies look like. But which of those stats actually translate into wins? Let's take a deeper look at what changed between wins and losses for both teams, and find the key factors that swung the results. Next, I wanted to find out what stats actually led to winning. So I compared the games each team won versus the ones they lost, to see which numbers really made the difference. For the Nuggets, it's all about efficiency and tempo. In their wins, both EFG% and TS% jumped significantly, meaning they were simply making more shots. They also played faster and shared the ball better. Their assist-to-turnover ratio improved, and they averaged 2 more blocks and wins, showing strong defensive presence as well. The Thunder's results were a bit more surprising. Unlike the Nuggets, there weren't any standout stats that spiked during their wins. They won even when their defensive stats, like steals and blocks, weren't that impressive. It turns out they simply scored more, and that was enough. Given how much they're known for their defense, it's kind of unexpected. So that's what moved the needle in terms of wins and losses. But when we talk about who made the biggest difference, we have to look at the 2 stars leading the charge. Let's break down how Jokić and SGA performed throughout the series. One of the biggest stories this year is the MVP race, and many believe it's between Jokić and SGA. But what happens when we narrow it down to just this playoff series? Instead of comparing raw numbers like total points or assists, I normalized their stats using team-wide averages and visualized them on a radar chart. This way, we can focus on how much each player stands out relative to others, not just in quantity, but in impact. What we see is fascinating. Jokić is more balanced across categories like assists, rebounds, and shooting efficiency. Meanwhile, SGA spikes heavily in usage rate and scoring volume. While Jokić contributes everywhere without overextending, SGA carries the bulk of his team's offensive load. 2 very different styles, but both essential to their team's success. So that's the battle of the superstars. But what about the rest of the roster? Let's take a look at how other key players performed, and who might be the real X factors in Game 7. Now let's talk about efficiency, and how each player fits into the bigger picture. I used TS%, USG%, and PR-style impact to classify players into 4 quadrants based on efficiency and volume. Sorry the labels are a bit small, but here's the basic idea. A zone, top right high usage times high efficiency, the teams go to star. Efficient role, top left low usage times high efficiency, silent but highly effective contributors. Volume risk, bottom right high usage times low efficiency, trusted but inefficient. Low impact, bottom left low usage times low efficiency, limited influence despite playing time. Looking at the chart, a few names stand out. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is the clear ace, extremely high in both usage and efficiency. Nikola Jokić is right behind him, nearly identical TS%, but with a slightly lower USG%. Jalen Williams and Russell Westbrook both have high usage, but low TS%, which raises concerns about efficiency. Isaiah Hartenstein falls into the efficient role category, not heavily involved, but highly efficient when he does contribute. Cason Wallace and Aaron Gordon are interesting cases, both made an impact visually, but looking at the numbers, their TS% and USG% place them more toward the middle, not as impactful over the full series as they might seem. So that's the story of efficiency and role impact. But basketball isn't just about stats, it's about moments. Let's wrap things up by looking at how each team performs when it matters most, in the clutch. To wrap things up, I looked at how each team scored during the final 5 minutes of close games, the true clutch moments. Here's what the data shows. Oklahoma City leaned heavily on 2-point shots, especially from the paint and off drives. They made 8 2-pointers. Denver, on the other hand, had a more balanced approach. Their scoring came more from threes and free throws. Interestingly, Denver had slightly more free throws in clutch time, which suggests they were better at drawing fouls under pressure. OKC's style was more physical, attacking the rim and finishing through contact. Denver focused more on outside shooting and efficiency from the line, maximizing scoring without relying on volume shots. And yet, when we total it all up, OKC actually made more shots in the clutch. That's surprising, considering Denver has built a reputation for big clutch moments. But the numbers show OKC has quietly outperformed them when it matters most. After all that analysis, I have to say, I'm still torn. Both teams have strong arguments, but I'll go with the Thunder. Their aggressive defense, transition scoring, and clutch performance just might push them over the top. Denver's experience definitely counts, but it didn't clearly show up in the numbers this time. So, what do you think? Drop your prediction in the comments. I just started this YouTube channel this month, so I'm still learning. If you have suggestions for improvement, I'd love to hear them. Even just hitting that like button would mean a lot to me. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.